The duel between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker is my favorite part of Return of the Jedi. It's so iconic and emotional. It's the climax of not only that movie, but the entire trilogy. Now, have you ever wondered how the powerful Darth Vader lost to Luke Skywalker? Well, there's some debate on how Luke was able to beat him with his limited training, leading some people to theorize that Luke didn't actually beat Vader, that perhaps Vader let him win, or there was something else going on. So in today's video, I'm going to look at several factors that went into their fight to help us figure out whether or not Luke actually won. So the first factor that we have to consider is their level of training at this point. Now at this point in Return of the Jedi, Luke definitely has a lot less training than Vader. Luke's first official training was with Obi-Wan on the flight from Tatooine to Alderaan, which took about 3 to 4 days presumably. He later trained with Yoda for roughly 4 to 6 weeks, and after he lost to Vader on Cloud City, much of his training was done by himself, practicing things that Yoda had taught him. When Darth Vader was a Jedi, he received training from the Jedi Order for approximately 13 years. Now after his injuries, he did have to relearn many different things, like how to fight with a lightsaber. He also learned the dark side from Palpatine, and despite the fact that he was more machine than man, he had 24 years to figure out how to use his new suit, making Vader a formidable opponent. So from everything that we can see, Vader clearly has more training than Luke at this point. Now the next thing we have to consider is strength in the Force. While Vader is in a weakened state, he's still incredibly powerful. According to George Lucas, Vader was 80% as powerful as Palpatine. However, we also know from George Lucas that Luke had the same Force potential as Anakin. Now I'm not saying he was as powerful as Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. I'm saying that he had the potential to be more powerful than the Emperor or even Yoda, which I believe that he eventually was as Grandmaster Luke. However, right now, I don't believe that Luke is more powerful than Vader. I mean, he technically opened himself up to the Force 4 years prior, but he's really only been serious about training in the Force for a little over a year. In terms of Force strength, it would probably place him a little bit less powerful than Anakin in Attack of the Clones, which is still pretty powerful, just not quite up to Vader's level. Now the next thing that we have to consider is who is a better duelist, which is kind of an obvious thing to consider when discussing who wins in a fight, because strength in the Force doesn't necessarily mean that you'll win a fight. It helps a lot, but it's not the defining factor. You need to practice combat moves. Now when it comes to skill with a lightsaber, Luke is definitely not the better duelist. He was taught the basics of Form 1 by Obi-Wan and Yoda, but their main goal with Luke's training was simply to open him up to the Force and teach him the basics, compared to Darth Vader, who has not only fought and defeated several Jedi, but who constantly practices against droids designed to test his skill. In the Shadows of the Empire novel, which takes place shortly before Return of the Jedi, Vader's seen constantly sparring against droids, defeating them easily. Vader is easily the better duelist. Now from what we've seen, it kinda seems like Vader should beat Luke, right? So did Vader let Luke win? Well, not necessarily. Despite all the advantages that Vader may have possessed, there was still one advantage that Luke had. It's the fact that he was Vader's son. You see, Vader could bluff all he wanted to, but the emotions of having a son and his feelings towards Luke conflicted with him. Vader was unstable because of this, no matter how much he pretended otherwise. No matter what he said to Palpatine, Vader didn't want to kill Luke. In both of their duels, he was testing Luke, trying to make Luke join him. This threw Vader off. If you look at the fight, Vader clearly isn't trying to end Luke's life. He's trying to anger him and continue the fight while defending himself, but he certainly isn't trying to kill him. Now at a certain point in the duel, it seems like Luke starts to win. When Luke's thoughts betray him and Vader learns about Leia, Vader pushes Luke too far. Angry, Luke temporarily gives into the dark side, powered by the strength that the dark side has given him. He begins hacking and slashing at Vader with everything he's got. Now this next part might be a bit of a stretch and could simply be a mistake in the choreography, but in this brief part of the duel, Luke swings his lightsaber over Vader in a wild arc, leaving Luke wide open and exposed. Absolutely nothing was stopping Vader from killing Luke right then and there. In fact, if you play this part in slow motion, you can clearly see that Vader has to intentionally move his blade away from Luke in order to avoid hitting him. Now this could just as easily be the fact that David Prowse is trying his hardest to make the fight look real and not hit Mark Hamill, but that's not how I've always seen the fight. To me, it looked like Vader was trying his hardest not to kill Luke while defending himself. Okay, does this mean that I think Vader let Luke win? Absolutely not. I genuinely believe that Luke won this fight. Despite his limited training, knowledge, and experience, Luke is a Skywalker and is incredibly powerful in the Force, especially when tapping into the dark side for the first time. But more importantly, Vader was not himself during this fight. He didn't want to kill Luke, so he's not trying as hard as he normally would if he were fighting some random Jedi. On top of that, he's incredibly conflicted and distracted, which can be incredibly dangerous and detrimental detrimental to anyone during a duel. For example, Darth Maul allowed himself to be cut in half by Obi-Wan because he let the success of killing Qui-Gon go to his head and distract him. So yes, I do think Luke won this fight, because he was Darth Vader's son. And that messed Darth Vader up. Now, I know my opinion may not be super popular. From what I've seen, many people believe that Luke's just an all-around better fighter, and for that reason alone, he was able to beat Darth Vader. And that's totally fine. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. I love friendly discussions and debates. It makes things interesting and helps us grow. If all Star Wars fans had the same opinion, I think it would be pretty boring. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please make sure to be civil. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a great day. May the Force be with you.